We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It is Wednesday, and this is a special podcast. This is going to be one of those podcasts that we do from time to time where I do a TikTok live at the same time. And the reason this is appropriate is because we just finished watching the Kamala Harris Donald Trump debate. I told you that Kamala Harris would annihilate Donald Trump. And I don't think there's anybody that can argue with me about that. It was an absolute shit show for Donald Trump, and Kamala Harris played it absolutely perfectly. And then when it was all over, an endorsement from Taylor Swift. Holy fuck. Pretty impressive. All right, I'm going to go to the TikTok live, folks. I want you to understand I'm doing this TikTok live. I've been planning to do it after the debate so we can talk about it a little bit. I'm also recording this for the Rational Boomer podcast, which you'll be able to hear tomorrow. So we're dealing with two things. I'm multitasking here. And I'm not the kind of guy that will tell you, I told you so. Actually, I am that guy. But I said that Donald Trump would get annihilated by Kamala Harris, and that is without question what happened. I had a lot of ideas of how Kamala Harris should have handled this. And I'm just a guy sitting in my living room, but she handled it absolutely perfectly. She kept Donald Trump on the defensive the entire time. A bully has to be on the offensive. He has to try to roll over you. She never allowed him to do that. She masterfully nailed his ass, bringing up all the points that she knew would embarrass him, and then gave her plan for the future. Absolutely fucking perfect. It was absolutely perfect. And then just to cherry on the top, Taylor Swift gives an endorsement. I know a lot of people have been waiting for that. She commands a lot of support. She put it out on Instagram, and just so you get an idea, here on TikTok, I have 375,000 people following me. That's a lot of fucking people. You know how many people follow Taylor Swift on Instagram? 283 million motherfucking people. This is a good day for Democrats and a very bad day for Donald Trump. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. I'm going to go to your questions here in a little bit, but for the moderators out there, I just want to give you a heads up. There's going to be a lot of Trump-la-fucks that are pretty butthurt out there, so they're not going to be too fucking friendly. So be careful, be watching them, and we'll do what we can. My goal here is to be on at least an hour, maybe an hour and a half, and we will see what happens. But for those folks listening on TikTok, I just want to say when the Trump-la-fucks do come, don't engage with them. It doesn't do any good. They're just looking for some exposure. They're looking for some attention. They don't have their own platform. So just don't engage with them. That's the best possible choice. And don't forget to check out the Rational Boomer podcast on Spotify for the audio version, on YouTube for the video version. All right, let's get down to business. Great Captain and TJ are out there doing the moderating. There might be some others too. Cheryl K says he was very sour tonight. Well, that's generous of you to say. He was unhinged. He was crazy. And I knew this was what would happen if Kamala did the absolute right thing. If she was to go after him and still give her information, that would be the best possible thing. And she fucking nailed it. Let's see here. She was great. Absolutely. She was outstanding. And I couldn't feel more comfortable about Kamala Harris being president of the United States than I am tonight. I felt comfortable before, but she handled this perfectly. This was a very stressful, pressure-filled time. This was a make or break thing. And you could see she was a little nervous in the beginning. But once she got her groove on, Kamala got her groove back. Once she got that on, she was flying. And Donald Trump was unhinged, upset, negative the whole fucking time. And he was on the defense. Starting over. So glad to finally be catching you live. I'm glad you're here. I'm going to do some more lives as we continue toward the election. I appreciate you stopping by. The commentators were weak and didn't keep him in check. I disagree with you there. They weren't the best, but they did more than any of the other moderators did. They did fact check him a little bit, and that threw him off. I don't feel as badly about the moderators in this case as I did in the last one with Biden. They could have done better, but that left more room for Kamala to kick his ass, and she certainly did. Christian said Kamala wiped the floor with Trump. She absolutely did. Wasn't even close. And I'm not surprised. I just got a lot of joy watching this because I knew she had every tool to beat his ass, and I knew exactly what Donald Trump would do. He trained prior to this debate that they told him what to do, but there was no way he's not disciplined enough, and he doesn't have control over his emotions or his mind, so he was going to lose his shit. And she did the exact right things to make him crazy. VP Harris was awesome. These things are moving fast. She walked right up and introduced herself, set a tone. I was talking to my nephew, and he said that Kamala Harris made Donald Trump her bitch right at the handshake. She walked right over, wanted to shake his hand, and he didn't want to do it. He was going to try to run away, but he was trapped, and then he shook her hand. She took control right at that moment, and Donald Trump, who is a coward by trade, in the heart of hearts, he is a coward. When that happened, it was all over for Donald Trump. Serenity said he did not train enough. It wouldn't make a difference how much he trained. He doesn't listen to shit. He doesn't follow anything. He just does what he does. And so I don't think training would have done any particular good for him. So it doesn't matter. Fox News is reporting Trump had a bad night. Well, I guess he did. I guess he had a motherfucking bad night. She was poised and calm. Yeah, she was poised and calm, and she was very presidential, which was the important thing here. See, this is a different situation than Donald Trump doing an interview or Kamala doing an interview. Everybody was watching this. Chances are there was more than 70 million people that watched this debate. A lot of them Republicans. It's hard to deny what you just saw. It's not being twisted or turned or diverted or spun by Fox News. They saw what they saw it live, and now they have to make an intelligent choice. Now, that's hard to expect out of a Republican, but you want to argue the fact, you're going to have a little trouble. P. Marie says Taylor Swift just endorsed Kamala and Tim, 200 million plus Swifties added to our side. Yeah, Taylor Swift did endorse. And you know what's interesting about that endorsement by Taylor Swift? When she endorsed Joe Biden, she did it right after the Kamala Harris vice presidential debate back in 2019, 2020. So this is kind of par for the course. You knew she was going to endorse him if she was going to endorse anybody. And fucking brilliant to do it when she did it. Everything about this is timing. The timing when Joe Biden stepped aside and then endorsed her. The timing with this debate, and the timing with getting Dick Cheney's support. Liz Cheney's support, 200 Republicans. It's all fallen into place. And I told you that this is like destiny. Let's see. But he never answered killing the immigration bill issue and never pressed him on it. Well, they could have pressed him on it, but they did press him on one thing as to whether or not he would veto a national abortion bill. They asked him 4 times, and each time he diverted. You know he would sign that national abortion bill. He just knows it's going to hurt him politically, so he doesn't want to answer it. And he doesn't want to answer it because if he says he will veto the national abortion ban, then the evangelicals and the radical right will bail on his ass. He's fucked. He's in a bad situation right now. And this is how it goes for narcissists. Once they start their descent, they ain't no coming back. He ain't coming back. It's just going to get worse. All right. Trump crying tonight. Yeah, I was hoping she would make him cry. The thing is, he is going to be losing his shit when he goes back, trying to tell everybody that he did a great job. Nobody's going to say he did a great job. There are going to be clips, there are going to be memes, and he is going to be bombarded with people making fun of him. And as a narcissist, that's the absolute That's the absolute worst thing that could happen. Now somebody's saying Travis Kelce just endorsed Trump. Well, that wouldn't surprise me if you're dating Taylor Swift, and with as much power as she has, I'd do it too. Um, Audrey says he got triggered over crowd sizes. And that was a very calculated thing by Kamala Harris. She knew that would trigger him over and be more important than anything else. So she mentioned the crowd size and then went off on the topic, and he couldn't help himself. He was really upset about the crowd sizes. We got the biggest crowds ever. No, you don't. Kamala and Tim have much bigger crowds. He would not answer the question, and he beyond met his match. Yeah, there are people. I was watching MSNBC. I wanted to hear the wrap up from the people, the pundits out there, and Lawrence O'Donnell, who is one guy I respect. Um, he said this may have been the best political debate in history. And it very well could have been. Somebody else made a point that Kamala said 81 million people fired you, Donald. That's right. What about the part where he says the immigrants are eating pets? And then David Muir said, yeah, that's a lie. He said, but I saw it on TV. I fucking saw it on TV. He also had no plan for the people. You're absolutely right. This is where Kamala really scored. She made a point of looking at the people and saying, we're working for you. Donald Trump is just working for himself, and nobody can debate that. And this is the kind of thing that's going to make people that are undecided, God knows how they're undecided, but those undecided to understand the difference, the contrast between these two people. Do you think Republican power brokers are now, oh, fuck. Hold on. This thing moves too fast. I'm sorry. I think what they were asking was, do you think Republican uh, power brokers are rethinking Donald Trump as candidate? Well, it's a little late now. It's a little late now, and they have a problem if they bailed on Donald Trump. If they bailed on Donald Trump, the Trump cult just wouldn't vote, and that would affect all the down ballot people. They're stuck with Donald Trump, and thank God for that. Let's see here. The pet eating is hilarious. Yeah. Um, my dog is hiding under the bed. That's the one thing he's going to be teased about a lot. It's just a dumb statement. And the fact of the matter is um, uh, we knew he was going to say something dumb. We knew he was going to get frazzled. We knew he would be unhinged. And she did all the right things to do it, but she didn't. You notice how she did it. She didn't do it in an attacking way per se. She did it in a professional way, and then she went back to talking about what she had to offer. Let's see here. He had a concept of an idea for a plan. She made a good point. Donald Trump kept saying he had a health care plan. But he said that 9 years ago, and we have yet to see anything. He says, we've got people working on it. We're going to come out with it very soon. Well, that's what he said 9 years ago. He has nothing. And then he said, well, the ACA is working, but it's not real well. I'll just make it work the best it can until I come up with something. Wait a minute. You just told us you came up with something. So which is it? Cheryl says she called him out on most every lie. She did. You know what she didn't do? You know what she didn't do? When he said something specific to her, she didn't respond to him. She didn't answer his claim. And that too was very calculated. That would give him power that she's on the defense now. And she never let that happen. She was always on the offense. And so the defense was all for Donald Trump. And when you've got a bully on the defense, that's when they lose, and they lose big. Marianne says, so you noticed his eyes darting like mad. Oh, yeah, you saw his eyes darting, his eyes squinted, he's bobbing his head. Here's what I can tell you about him. He was controlling his anger, but that fucker was furious. He was livid. and he was doing all he could to hold back. And then when he started talking, you saw him start to lose it. I don't know how he held it off. I didn't think he'd make it through the 90 minutes. Natalie says this is Trump's worst nightmare. He lost the debate and Taylor Swift's endorsement. Yeah, well, he was never going to get Taylor Swift's endorsement, but you're absolutely right. He had a horrible night, fucking horrible night. Uh, the firearms things, I thought that was interesting. She's going to take all your guns. That's what he said. And she said, hey, listen, nobody's taking your guns. Tim Walz and I both own guns. Every time he said something, she had something to retort that made him look stupid. And I don't even know if he understood that he was looking stupid half of the time. He'll know tonight and into tomorrow when all the reports are coming out that Donald Trump got destroyed. It's going to kill him because he hates looking weak. He can't admit to being a loser. And this is going to be rough for him. You're going to see him do some crazy shit over the next couple of days. The Renegade says, I wish she would have addressed how Law and Order president didn't respect law enforcement on January 6th. Well, she kind of did. She kind of did. She also acknowledged the fact that this Law and Order guy who has been indicted 4 times has over 80 charges and been convicted 34 times, and he had to stand there and take it. If Harris was yelling like Trump, she would have been emotional, absolutely. But she wasn't emotional at all. There was a couple of times where they allowed some crosstalk and she was able to bite back at him. And she was doing the right thing. She laughed at him a couple times, and that may be one of the worst things you can do to a narcissist. Please don't laugh at me because I'm a powerful guy. Donald Trump proved he is not powerful, that another black woman, black South Asian woman, kicking his ass. He's got Letitia James. He's got Fonnie Willis. He's got, who else is there? Judge Chutkin. They all kicking his ass. Trump is a broken, tired old record. Yeah, that's the exact thing. He really has no new material. Every time he was asked something, it would always go back to immigration. And you notice what Kamala did. Before he got to that point, she said, we're going to talk about immigration. Donald will always talk about immigration, even when that's not the topic. She set him up for the fail there ahead of time. And that's what he did. He kept going back to immigration. Then she set him up by saying, well, yeah, but what about the bipartisan border bill that you shit canned? He didn't have answers for these things. And if he was prepared, he was poorly prepared, or he just didn't listen to anything that he was told. I don't think Trump even knows what tariffs are. No, I don't either. I don't either. His concept of tariffs are very simple. And frankly, tariffs are just this. If you put a tariff on China, they're going to add that percentage to the cost of the product, and we're going to pay for it. You don't have to be an economics guy to understand this. I'm a dumb guy in my living room, and I get it. I fucking get it. He was punching way below his class. Not sure what you mean by that. A great captain says, ignore the orange supporters. They can't help but be weird. Good evening, Boomer. Hey, of course, Trump won the coin toss for last statement, but lost the debate. Yeah, and he didn't even do good. He didn't even do well in that last comment. That should wrap things up and maybe help him win. It just made it worse. He keeps saying, well, if she's going to do all this stuff, why didn't she do it? Well, the same could be asked about Donald Trump. You were going to have a medical health care plan. Why didn't you do it? You were going to have an infrastructure bill. Why didn't you do it? You were going to build a wall. Why didn't you do it? If it was a free and open debate, he would have been destroyed even worse. Hold on a second. I got a Trump bumper here. All right. All right. I'm sorry. When I come across a Trump bumper here, you have to understand I'm on TikTok. I'm on the Rational Boomer podcast. Whenever I see a Trump bumper, I just block them. I'm not going to give them time or space to do anything. They are a risk to the platform, the TikTok platform. So they're of no use to me. Um, Margot says, "Ha ha! I hope no one eats my dog." Yeah, what the fuck was that about? Eating dogs, and then he was going to die on that hill when David Muir said that's not true. Oh yeah, I saw it on TV. Well, then it must be true if it's on fucking TV. Will Trump drop Vance? I don't think Vance is his biggest problem. And I think if he drops Vance, he's going to look even weaker yet. And who's he going to put in there? RFK Jr.? Fucking go ahead. That's not going to help anything. Taylor Swift endorsed Harris. Yep, we know about that. Kamala has asked for a second debate in October. Do you think he will accept? No, I don't think he should accept. But it was funny. I was watching on MSNBC, and somebody on MSNBC was talking to Tim Walz, and they asked him, "Do you think Kamala Harris should debate him again?" And Tim Walz said, "I think he should. She should debate him every day." I get what he's saying, and I agree. Some other people saying that she shouldn't debate him again. It's not going to be any different. It's going to come out the same way. Donald Trump cannot control himself. He can't follow directions. He's not disciplined. Let's see here. Well, that was very entertaining. I was thoroughly captivated. I think Kamala was amazing. I do too. Trump said they asked for a second debate because she knows she lost this one. Oh, yeah. That's what he's going to say. He's going to say, she lost. I kicked ass. Well, 70 million people saw otherwise. So, Donnie, keep talking. Keep talking. You're going to look like a fool. Fox and JD believe Trump killed the debate. Can't be serious. Well, these motherfuckers, all they do is lie. Shouldn't surprise anybody that they're going to say they won. The fucking election, they got their ass kicked and they said they won. But nobody cares and everybody saw what happened and it's not going to do any good. Hello. Always says the same things. You'll be able to debate him all the better. He never says anything. That's true. He always goes back to his top hits, but uh, it never worked. It's not working now. And he's just a boring old man. And his cognitive abilities should be in question. Um, should be examined. You want to get on Joe Biden. Now, Joe Biden was slow and he was doddering in the last debate, but everything he said was the truth. Everything he said was on track. Cognitively, he was fine. He was just slow. It was about performance. KCR 0000. Hi, Mike. Hey, how you doing? Good to see you. I see your stuff online every so often. Um, what was your favorite stupid Trump reply? God, there's so many. Almost everything he said was so stupid. My wife and I were sitting here watching it and laughing and cheering and doing all kinds of stuff. I knew it would turn out this way, but there's always some concern. It's like going into a sporting event. You know you're going to win, but still, things can happen. But that turned out as perfectly as it could possibly go. In fact, I would say what Kamala Harris did was far better than I even expected, and I knew she would kick his ass. Heidi's, hold on. I'm you gotta bear with me here. I'm sorry if I miss your questions because they're going by very quickly, and if I don't recognize it, I will miss some. Feel free to post it again. When he told Kamala to let him speak, followed by sounds familiar. Wow. Yeah, Donald Trump was looking to score one. Kamala Harris was known for saying to Mike Pence in the vice presidential debate, Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking. So Donnie thought he'd try to make a score by saying the same thing to Kamala. And it was a joke. It was ridiculous. It was lame. I loved how he desperately tried to debate Biden, and she reminded him that he wasn't talking to Biden. Yeah, she did that perfectly too. Put into question his cognitive ability without actually saying it. He was always referring to Biden, and then she said, "I'm not Biden," and he just sat there and he was trying to be cool about this, and that's hard. I will give him credit for it. For a narcissist to keep your cool, that's impressive. That's about the only impressive thing he did. They were giving him the proverbial rope to hang himself. I think they knew what they were. Yeah, he hung himself. Uh, I don't understand why Republicans can't understand how to say her name. Well, they do it purposely. You know, they want to own the libtards, and they're losing at every turn. Samantha says, I like when she said he gave them a deficit and told him he was not debating Biden. Yeah, I mean, that's the important thing. Donald Trump tried to blame Kamala Harris for things that he was culpable for. And that everything about this was perfect. I didn't expect everything would be perfect. I thought he might score some points. Donald Trump didn't score 1 point. As Lawrence O'Donnell said on MSNBC, he did not gain 1 vote today. That's the point of doing these debates, to gain votes. And today, Donald Trump did not gain any any votes. Mike Tess says Trump making up Taliban leaders' names. Yeah, I talked to Abdul, head of the Taliban, and then on MSNBC, that's not the name of the guy who's head of the Taliban. Um, Dad Time says Harris did good, but Trump hurt himself. She baited him, and his immaturity showed and took it. Yeah, she did a great job of baiting him, and he took it hook, line, and sinker. She did a job on him. What do you think of a Waltz and Vance debate? I don't think it's going to happen. After the results of this debate, I think they're going to be scared to do debates. I don't think there'll be another Kamala Donald debate. And I think they may just want to cut bait before they get to that debate. I mean, JD Vance is an Ivy League guy, supposedly should be able to handle Tim Walz. But in many ways, as far as being a speaker and being inspirational and getting the gotchas, Tim Walz might even be better than Kamala Harris. He's a public school teacher, he's an Ivy League guy, but Tim Walz would destroy him. Mainly because what JD Vance is talking about is fucking lies. How do you debate with only lies in your quiver? You can't. Let's see. Do the commentator repeat Donnie lost the 2020 election? Yeah, they called him out on this election thing, and then they suggested that Donald Trump said may have admitted that he lost. Well, I lost by a whisker. I lost this, and then he said, David Muir said, "Are you saying that you acknowledge now that you lost 2020's election?" He said, "No." He's still going with that, and that's what Donald Trump does. He takes a lie, and no matter how much it's been proven otherwise, he will stick to it. And he looks stupid in the process. He has nothing sustainable to say. He sounded like a third grader. That's what I've been saying for fucking 8 years. He sounds like a fucking child. He's not a very bright man. He's stupid. And I'm not trying to be insulting. The fact is, he's stupid. She didn't bring up the J6 hostages, her only mistake. Well, they did talk about J6 for a little while. They could have spent more time on that, but Donald Trump did espouse the fact of how badly they were treated and that nobody was killed. She made comments about that. Donald Trump said she puts out during the race. Yeah. Yeah, she did. Fuck. He has he has no self-awareness. He thinks he maybe did well in this debate. And the fact of the matter is, he doesn't understand that most people thought he looked like a fool. And when Kamala Harris came out and said all these other leaders and his generals think he's a disgrace, that hit hard. That hit hard. And he knows that Kamala is getting this out there and he's not having much luck to cover it up or to twist it or turn it or bully her. And it's just killing him. He's a guy that doesn't like to be embarrassed. And it was fun to watch. I got to be honest with you. I'm a big boxing fan, but this was better than any boxing match I've seen in decades. Good Trouble says Little Donnie Dementia forgot to bring his weave tonight. Oh, he had it, but the weave is bullshit. I'm confused and delusional, but it's all planned. uh, let's see here. I noticed that too. Like she was a non-person, just a woman. You notice he never really looked her in the eyes. That's a sign of a pathological liar and somebody who's getting his ass whooped. That's the thing about narcissists. They act real tough, but when you don't back down, they turn to their nature, and that's being a fucking coward. He tried to fight, but nothing he did worked. And this is confusing him. He's always been able to do this when he was a child, when he was in school, and when he was in business. But at that point, he had control of the people around him. He had something over on them, and they just went along. That's not happening anymore. Um, and she called him a disgrace. And I'm sure that that hit home. Donald Trump got spanked. Yeah, I did a TikTok earlier today regarding Donald Trump and the upcoming debate. And I suggested Donald Trump should wear 2 layers of diapers because he couldn't afford a blowout in front of 70 million people, and that he needed that extra layer because he was going to get spanked. And damned if he didn't get spanked. He did plenty of projecting tonight. Well, that's his only strategy, is to project. Why is no one talking about the fact he said he heard she put out? Well, he did say that, but whether he intended it as a sexual reference or not, I'm not sure. You have to understand Donald Trump is confused. He's not very articulate. His vocabulary is that of maybe a middle schooler. Uh, Maybe he was just having further further problems putting together words. He makes mistakes like that all the time, and it always slaps him in the face. And I'm not always sure that he meant what it sounded like he meant. I think it's more that he's stupid. Did Trump win the debate, in your opinion? What the fuck kind of question is that? No, Donald Trump did not win the debate. He wasn't even in the debate. He was a fucking sideshow freak, and people were laughing at him. He can't rattle her. And yeah, that's exactly right. Kamala sat there and listened to some horrific shit that he said about her and about Biden and all this stuff. Never once did she get rattled. And let me say, once somebody's a president of the United States, there's some crazy shit out there. We don't need somebody that doesn't control their emotions. We need somebody that doesn't get rattled. Trump got toyed with and walked. Yes, he did. He got toyed with and walked. I don't think Kamala even broke a sweat in this. I think she was probably surprised by how easy this was. I could tell when she first started talking that she was a little bit nervous, and that's expected. I mean, she's never been on a stage of this size in a debate of this importance, so naturally she was a little nervous. But once she got a groove on, man, it was over. Um, you can't get comfortable vote her House and Senate. Well, yeah, absolutely. And this is one of the things that people always say: don't say Kamala's winning because then people won't go out to vote. I'm going to tell you something. I have an audience in the podcast and with TikToks. I have more respect for them to think that they'll get lazy and not vote. Everybody who's listening now that supports Kamala Harris, whether it be on the podcast or TikTok, they're going to go out to vote. They're going to take joy in her separating the polling and all that stuff. But nobody's not going to vote just because they think she's got it in the bag. I hear people say that all the time, and I'd prefer to give the people who are listening or watching a little more respect than that. Trump is confused about 9 months. Yeah, well, the abortion thing, that he got destroyed in that. He was trying to explain that away, and that didn't go very well. I feel forced to vote because Donald is dangerous. Well, if you were going to vote for Donald and and you decide not to vote, that's cool too. But I understand what you're saying. You feel forced to vote because Donald is dangerous. There are many people during elections that have not gone out and vote. But I want you to understand something. The reason we are in this position right now, the reason we have the problems right now is because of voter apathy, because people didn't think it was important. People sat on the couch and didn't vote. Now we're seeing all the things that are coming to pass because of our apathy. If for no other reason than to be a true patriot and to have some input on what happens in this country, whether you think she's going to win big or think she's going to be in a tight race or you think she's going to lose, still vote. Kyle says, I'm confused on tariffs. Aren't they a tax that we pay when we buy the products that are imported? Well, that's exactly it. And I don't know if this has been explained to Donald Trump or he just doesn't understand it or he's just flat out lying. Tariffs are very simple. You put a tariff on China, and let's say they're making, I don't know, computers. So they put a 10% or even a 20%, because that's what Donald Trump was talking about, on a computer. So when they send that computer to the United States, that computer is increased its price by 20%. They're like every other business. Any expense they have, they pass along to the consumer. So yes, it is passed to us. China does not fucking pay for it. The only thing China or anybody else who has a tariff might be affected by, maybe they sell fewer products because the higher price. But make no mistake, if somebody is buying a product coming out of China with a tariff on it, you are paying for that tariff. The RNC chairman said Trump laid out his plans. He never once gave any details of his plans. Well, that's common with Donald Trump. He has no plans. He has no strategy. He has no platform. The entire fucking Republican Party has nothing. The RNC said he laid out all his plans. Well, what little he put out are all the plans that the Republican Party has. Bobo Tash says, I do think another debate would help Harris, or should this be it? More opportunity to contrast crazy to sanity. Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with her debating him again. Nothing's going to change. She's smart, she's sharp, she's strong, and Donald Trump will do the exact same thing he did today. That's what's going to happen. And like Tim Walz said, I think she should debate him every day because it was positive for Kamala Harris, and it will be positive every time there's a debate. The only reason I say there may not be another debate, it isn't because Kamala doesn't want to do it. It would make sense that the Republicans say, yeah, you know what, Donnie, you didn't do well on this one. We got enough problems. We're not letting you go debate again. And that's why I think they might do the same thing with the VP debate, which is coming October 1st. J.D. Vance is a little smarter, but he has even a worse reputation out there. And Tim Walz is a down-home guy that people like. That debate won't go very well either. Sam says the president is temporary. We have to pick the one that keeps us pointed in the right direction. Absolutely. Now, when you watch that debate, there shouldn't be any debate about what direction we want to head. We can go back or we can go forward. We can be for the rich and the authoritarians, or we can go for the people of this country and democracy. Seems like a pretty simple choice. That's why when I hear people saying, well, I'm undecided. Really, motherfucker, you're undecided. Where the fuck have you been? How can you possibly be undecided? Ben Braver says, I'm a teacher running in Florida. I'd love to join and give you a candidate's perspective. Well, Ben, I'm going to tell you what. When I do these TikTok lives, I don't bring on guests. I will do some eventually, but you have to understand while I'm doing this, I'm recording it for the podcast. Now, if I bring you on, um, the people in the podcast won't be able to hear you. Secondly, if I bring somebody on a TikTok, it's only going to be people I know because I did that early on when I was doing TikTok lives and I got burned. I got fucking goofballs and I'm not interested in getting goofballs. I'm not saying you're one, Ben, but I don't know you. We maybe have to talk on email or something like that just so I can get a sense of who you are. And I appreciate you teaching. You may or may not know that my wife is a retired teacher of 30 years in an urban area here in Minneapolis. So I have a lot of respect and a lot of understanding about what teachers go through, especially for you in Florida. That's got to be a difficult time. So somebody says, I wish the Raffensperger phone call was mentioned. Well, see, here's the problem. There's so many things, so many scandals with Donald Trump. You only got 90 minutes. How are you going to bring up everything? All you have to do is bring up something every 2 or 3 minutes. And all we really need to do is make sure that he doesn't get elected. And I think this debate tonight pretty much ensured that. What a contrast. Walz has a sense of humor and Vance doesn't. LOL. Yeah, absolutely. Vance is a stiff and he's weird. And he's authoritarian. There's no question about it. He's for Project 2025. And I will tell you this, as much as Donald Trump wanted to deny 2025, Kamala Harris did a wonderful job attaching to that motherfucker, and he ain't going to be able to shake it. A convicted felon not allowed to work in Walmart but run for president. America, wake up. Well, you know why he can run for president, because nowhere in the Constitution does it say a convicted felon can't run for president. Now, why doesn't it say that in the Constitution? Because in the 1700s, they had no fucking idea in their mind that people in this country would be stupid enough to run a convicted felon. Trump spoke 39 to 23 more times than Harris. ABC wilted in the second half. I will say this: Donald Trump did try to interrupt and try to break in when the moderators wanted to go the in another direction, and they let him go there. But here's the thing: something I've always said, and it worked tonight. You want to let Donald Trump talk as much as he can, because Donald Trump will always fuck himself up. Every time he will fuck himself up. And, you know, Kamala Harris wanted the mics open so they could go back and forth. And there were a couple times they did. But Kamala's fine with him talking. Let that motherfucker talk. He'll just bury himself. Queen Angela. Fuck. Sorry. This stuff keeps moving. And it's hard for me to keep up. Damn it. I don't know how many of you people are sending comments and questions, but Bob Bobo says he promoted foreign leader was Orban, an autocrat in Hungary. Yeah, when Kamala said that everybody around the world thinks he's a joke, thinks he's a disgrace, not Viktor Orban. Yeah, no, not a murderous dictator. He likes Donald Trump, of course. I'm trying to keep up here, man. I'm sorry. I'll do some more lives so everybody that wants to get in can. Absolute disaster for Trump tonight. He looked old and tired. Yes, he did. He did not look good physically and certainly not emotionally. He exalted foreign dictators on live television. He did. And I think he thought he was gaining something there. I think he thought he was winning there, but he was not. As an Aussie, I hope you all get out and vote for VP. Good luck, guys. I will tell you this: there's a lot of countries around this world that I hear from: Australia, New Zealand, England, Ireland, Canada, Mexico. Everybody's very concerned about the prospect of Donald Trump becoming president. They're all rooting for us to vote Kamala Harris in. And that says a lot. It's about our standing in this world, internationally, what our standing is, and understand that our standing was not good when Donald Trump was president. Why did the police back him? That's a good question. I don't know why that big union backed him, but it tells us something about police. They always talked about defunding the police, and I've always said we don't need to defund the police. That's crazy. We need police officers. We need to improve the quality of police officers. And the way we do that is we make it harder to become a police officer, pay them a lot more like professionals. Instead of taking away money, pay them more money, put them for more intensive physical and emotional training, and then put their feet to the fire. You make a mistake, you're gone. You're getting paid great, so just do the job you're supposed to do. Um, let's see here. That's funny because I have contacts all over the world. They love Trump. I bet you do. I bet you do. Well, then I'm wrong. Kamala Harris, I have a feeling, has more connections around the world than you do. So, what are you going to do? Um, Moving on. Do you watch these people that audit police departments? Okay, I don't want to talk about the police anymore. That's something else we have to deal with. Um, he said okay, yeah, they call me Bearcat. He said she wasn't black and that she puts out. She kept her cool, but I flipped the F out. Yeah. I don't know if that was just a uh, mistake verbally or he was trying to do some double entendre or something. I don't know. But Donald Trump is so fucking dumb. How many times can you hear uh how many times can you hear stupid shit and not get angry? Adam Grant says Kamala trounced him. She annihilated him, just as I suggested she would. He hates Venezuela now. On last day of presidency, he gave them 18 months in the U.S. to stay. Yeah. Why is Trump more coherent at debates than his rallies? That's a good question. You have to wonder if Adderall or some other kind of nefarious drug isn't involved. I mean, the guy's 78 years old. He's not in good health mentally or physically. What's giving him the energy? Somebody should check into that. And why are we talking about his cognitive ability? His inability to stay on track, to stay on the same topic in the same fucking sentence. We can talk about Joe Biden and his cognitive ability. Joe was just slow. He wasn't confused. Donald Trump was clearly confused, and I was glad that Kamala Harris was able to get that in there, that he was confused. That pissed him off. You had to look at this guy's face, and as I've told you before, I had a father that was a narcissist, and I could always tell by the facial cues when he was getting mad. Donald Trump was livid many times in that debate, but I have to give him credit. He held his temperament. I mean, you could tell when he started talking louder and faster that he was mad, but he was still holding back. And that's pretty impressive for a weak motherfucker like Donald Trump. I think she set the record straight about her views on gun control. She absolutely did. He keeps saying they're going to take away your guns. He's coming up with anything to try to get people to love him and hate Kamala. Nothing worked. She's going to take your guns away. And she pointed out that, well, Tim Walz and I both own guns. So that's not the case. When she called him weak, the expression on his face was priceless. Yeah, that's the thing with narcissists. You call them weak, that makes them very angry. And that's the thing that was surprising to me, that he was able to hold it together. I do give him credit for that because I didn't think he'd be able to do that. Rocket Surgery says, as soon as she mentioned crowd size, I knew he was going to spin out like nothing you have ever seen. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. PJ Perry says, see you at your podcast. Yeah, thank you, PJ. This TikTok live will be the Rational Boomer podcast for tomorrow. And for those of you that have not listened or watched the Rational Boomer podcast, I encourage you to do that, especially now that we're so close to the election. There's a lot of things happening. It's happening fast. You can't get all the details in TikToks. So I would encourage you to check out the Rational Boomer podcast. And tomorrow's show, this live, might be a good start. If you want to hear the audio version, go to Spotify, search Rational Boomer, and you'll find it right there. Or if you want to watch the video version of the podcast, go to YouTube, search Rational Boomer, and you'll find it there. I think there's a link in my profile as well to the YouTube side. Trump saved the meltdown for the media room. Yeah, I think we're going to see some meltdowns. Now, I don't know if he's melting down right now because I'm doing this, but I'm interested to see what happens between now and midday tomorrow. There is going to be some fucking meltdowns, I guarantee you, because he's feeling cornered even more so. Idaho gal says Taylor Swift just endorsed her. Yeah, we saw that. We talked about that earlier, but that's a big deal. That's a big deal. Usually celebrity endorsements aren't that big a deal. They're nice. They're a feather in your cap. But this woman is a much different situation than most celebrity endorsements. This woman is a phenom. This woman is a force of nature. She posted this on her Instagram, and her Instagram, she has 283 million followers. A lot of young women in my family who love Taylor Swift. My granddaughter, who's 4, loves Taylor Swift. And she loves Taylor Swift because her mom loves Taylor Swift. There's a lot of people out there that support Taylor Swift. And Taylor Swift made a statement. You have to go read it. It was very eloquent, very well written, very professionally written. And I've said this before. I can't say that I'm a huge Taylor Swift fan because her music isn't really my realm. But I have a lot of respect for this young woman. She has a lot of integrity. She has a lot of drive and motivation. She's been highly successful. She's self-made, and she stands behind what she does, and she has a lot of integrity. And you don't see that much in the entertainment business. All right. You keep us blue going, yeah? We're going to do that. I will be voting for the first time, and thanks to you, I will be voting blue. I'm Mexican, just became USA. Reynaldo, congratulations for becoming a U.S. citizen. We're proud to have you amongst us, and we're proud the fact that you're going to vote for the first time and that you're going to vote blue. Thank you. Congratulations. Surreal Scenario says she's on the right side of history. Well, we're all on the right side of history as long as we vote properly. Um, History is changing as we sit here today. As much as this has been tough to do, I think the destiny is set. We're going from the darkness into the light. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz is going to lead us into that light. Things are going to change here in this country. Understand this, though. They've dug a deep hole for us. So once we get Kamala in and Tim Walz in, we still have a lot of work to do. We still have a lot of talking, a lot of support, a lot of pushing to do. So our job isn't over at that point, but that gets us on the right path and gets us on a cleaner track to get to where we need to go. After November 5th, when Kamala Harris is elected president, things start to get a little easier. But again, we still have work to do. Terry Martinez says she told him Putin would have him for lunch. I like that one. That would be the kind of phrase that Donald Trump would use, and I'm sure that hit home pretty hard. Taylor Swift also put a link on her Instagram so new voters can register. You remember the last time she told people to register, a ridiculous amount of young people registered. We already have a crazy amount of young people registering, and of those, probably 70% or more are voting Democrat. This is becoming quite a bit of momentum. Kamala Harris has had a lot of momentum since Joe Biden endorsed her. A lot of people are trying to say it's a honeymoon or it's a sugar high. This ain't stopping anywhere soon. This debate, that endorsement, Dick Cheney's endorsement, this just keeps the momentum going. This stuff is going to roll until November. And in spite of what the polls tell you, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, and in the down ballot, there are going to be decisive wins. I won't go as far as saying a landslide, but I wouldn't be surprised at a landslide. Donkey says, I'm a 67-year-old proud Swiftie. Way to go. Can't help but love the girl. Fox News will probably try to make Trump to be a victim of some dumb conspiracy theory. Yeah, you're probably right. Alan Lichtman predicted her win in the election a couple of days ago. He sure did. But I predicted Donald Trump getting losing 4 years ago, or 2 years ago anyway, when he decided to run again. Um, we'll hear that tomorrow that someone said, "Sir, that was the greatest debate ever," or it was rigged. Yeah, there'll be we'll be hearing that it's rigged, and we've already heard from Fox News saying that the moderators did a terrible job, so it must be their fault. Um, B Bobby 480 said she's not self-made. She's like every entertainer out there. She's American made thanks to us. I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, but Taylor Swift didn't have a daddy that gave her $400 million to start her life. She started with her music and went through the process. And I've spent some time in the music business, and that's a fucking hard road to hoe. She maybe didn't do it all alone. She had her parents, she had her family, maybe she had an agent, but she's far more accomplished and self made than Donald Trump ever hoped to be. Um, Scotty Smith or Scott Smith says, I'm a rocker from the 60s, but I'm a Swiftie for life. I think we're all going to be Swifties now. If you Trumpers are hungry, I was told by Trump that you could go to Ohio and get some deep fried dogs. Where the fuck did that come from? He's talking about eating dogs, for God's sake. My goodness. It's it's pretty amazing what this guy is willing to say. And you have to understand why this happens. Donald Trump is not a thinker. He's very emotional. He's reactionary. And when it comes down to where he's put in a corner or he's being argued with, he just starts spewing shit. He starts making up shit. And he just says it over and over again. You have to understand when he was a young man, when he was in business, he could bully his way through anything and people would just bow to him because they worked for him or they feared him in some way. Well, we aren't scared of you, motherfucker, right now. You're on the run. You're losing, and your time is up. It's over. It's completely over. Donald Trump can't come back from this, can't come back from the way this whole campaign has gone. He maybe thinks he can pull it out, but I'm guaranteeing you there are some Republicans out there right now saying it's fucking over. It's absolutely over. Um, Hakeem says, man, I watch you every day. Thank you. I'm here every day. I appreciate it. Trump will claim he won and then blame ABC for his poor performance. Well, of course he will. Of course he will. But nobody will believe it because we all watched it. He can't lie about this because we all watched the motherfucker. Um, Kamala set Trump on fire tonight. Let's go blue all the way. Thank you for what you do. Yeah, Kamala did the job. I'm proud of her. I really am proud of her. I knew she would do a good job. I've always liked Kamala. I liked it when she was running against Biden back in 2019 and 2020. But she's really grown. You know, you have to understand with Kamala, she was good back in 2020 because I knew she was a fighter and I knew she was articulate and a prosecutor. But you have to understand over and above what she did back in 2020, she spent 4 years as the vice president of the United States. Valuable experience. And she did it under the tutelage of Joe Biden, who may be one of the best presidents we've ever seen. She's been trained by the best, and she will be the best when she comes out in this next election. But they let him talk on. They should have shut his mic off when he went over. Janet, that's where I disagree with you because Donald Trump's worst problem is his own mouth. I think Kamala was happy to let him talk as much as he wanted because every time he did, he fucked himself over. Just keep that in mind. As long as Donald Trump's talking, we're winning because he's an idiot. Adam Grant says, "Love you, Boomer. You're the best." Thank you, Adam. I appreciate it. Adam's on TikTok too. Check him out. Um, Clement, thanks, Mike. I listen to your podcast every day. Thank you. Miss Roddy says, "Good evening, Boomer. I love to watch and listen to you. You don't hold back." No, I don't hold back, to the chagrin of many of my family. Trump had his ass handed to him tonight by the lady that can't figure out her last name. I don't even know what that means. I don't know if I think you meant that positively. He was really sweating toward the end. Yeah, did you notice that? He was getting little sweat beads a la Richard Nixon back in 1960 above his lip. Donald Trump has never been pressed this hard anywhere. And I've always said this, if there was any journalist in 2019 and 2020 that pressed him just once, fact checked him just once, we wouldn't be in this situation right now. Donald Trump would have been exposed for the fool he was. When he first started running for president, nobody expected he would have a chance, that he would do anything. But then the left side media kept putting him on the air because he was fun, he was a shit show, he got an audience, and then they gave him credibility. So that's why I say that the left side media is as responsible for Donald Trump becoming president um, uh, as anybody. Perino says, "I didn't see it, but I like your commentary." Well, Perino or Perino, I will tell you this. You will see clips all day today and tomorrow and the next day and the next day. Even if you miss the debate, you'll see the best parts. They'll be all over the fucking place. You'll see them here on TikTok. Did you notice Donald's ear doesn't look like he was hit? You know what? I didn't look at his ear, but I've seen his ear in other situations. That dumb fucker wasn't hit by a bullet. I don't care what anybody says. I'm not a munitions expert, but I know when you get hit with an AR-15 bullet, a high velocity bullet, it's going to do some damage. Intentionally grateful. Paisley Park 19. Oh, okay. That referencing somebody. Um, I had a lot of confidence in VP Harris. She did an awesome job. She wiped the floor with him. He looked like he might cry. He was so mad. And I was hoping Kamala would make him cry. That would have been fun. I was hoping Donald Trump would have an emotional breakdown right there. And I'm impressed that he didn't, because he was being pressed hard and nothing was going his way. Oh my God, CNN is saying that the poll says people favor Trump as favorable to run the country. Yeah. Don't listen to polls. The polls told us there would be a red wave in 2022. The polls told us Donald Trump would win in 2020. The polls told us that Hillary Clinton would win in 2016. These polls are owned by wealthy people who have agendas. We don't know the questions they ask. We don't know who they're asking, and we don't know what they do with the data after they have it. Don't trust polls. They're trying to fuck with your heads, and that's all they are. You want to get a better sense of support, take a look at the fundraising, because last month Kamala Harris raised 3 times as much as Donald Trump. Is that not the essence of support? Somebody goes in their pockets, gives money to somebody they support. Don't worry about the polls. Don't even watch mainstream media anymore. It's so bullshit. I'll tell you what. I used to watch mainstream media just to get stories and such. I don't even really watch them anymore. I watch TikTok. Some of the people I like and trust, I get little bits of story, and then I go to my sources and I dig out the facts, and that's how I make my uh, make my analysis. The mainstream media is a fucking joke, both left and right at this point. Jesse Dog says, but Trump has billions and billions and billions of dollars. The only thing regarding billions of dollars I've seen of Donald Trump, when we've seen what we've seen little of his taxes, is that he's lost billions and billions of dollars. I haven't seen anywhere he has an income that makes him billions of dollars. Sherry K says JD Vance, excuse me, JD Vance came to a private home fundraiser today. here in my city in North Carolina. Wow, aren't you lucky? I hope you didn't go, Sherry, because he's a boring motherfucker. And apparently he doesn't like women. Idaho Gal says TikTok is much better for news these days. And I got to tell you, I tend to agree. And I wouldn't have said that normally. But there are so many good people like Midas Touch, Under the Desk News, some of the people that do what I do. They're getting it all from legitimate sources. And you can come on TikTok and get information about the news stories that are important without the bullshit that the mainstream media will give you. Glad commentators did some pushback on Trump and did a little fact check on him. I was hoping they would do that, and I have a feeling they did that for a reason, for how much shit the previous moderators got for doing nothing. They knew they had to do something at this point, so they did. He never answered question from Harris. He never answered a question from the moderators, for that matter, and that's part and parcel to Donald Trump's typical strategy. He doesn't answer questions. He goes off on tangents, and he looks silly. He got baited by Kamala, and she cooked him several times. Yeah, Kamala must have trained to figure out those trigger points. Well, it's not that hard with Donald Trump. She triggered him and baited him, and every time he fell for it. He's not a good debater. People were coming into this saying, well, Donald Trump's debated presidential debates more than anybody. That should make Kamala nervous. Yeah, but he never did anything. He was shitty in all the other debates. I wasn't worried about him with Kamala because I knew Kamala would kick his ass. Cheryl loves crystals. I voted in every primary, every general election since 1980. Never got a poll. So who's being polled? Indeed, who's being polled? And recently, there's been some polls exposed for being owned by Trump-la-fuck donors and them lying in the polls. Patty Ron says, you're my favorite influencer because you are straightforward, no BS. Thank you from Michigan. Well, thank you, Patty. I appreciate it. I try to be as straightforward as I can. Uh, I'm not apologetic for my occasional cussing. It's just me. I'm not going to do it any differently than who I am. Too many people come out and they get some followers and then they start trying to act like something else. I am who I am, warts and all. Dan's Don't Walk says this couldn't have been more one-sided. Yeah, it was very one-sided. Donald Trump wasn't even in the hunt ever. He didn't make a good point. He didn't have any momentum. As I said, what Kamala did is exactly what she needed to do. The entire time of the debate, Donald Trump was on the defense, which is exactly where bullies don't want to be. They only win if they're on the offense, and they only win if people demur from their attacks or whatever. But she never did that. She stood tall, she didn't move back, and she just nailed him time and time after again. And all the time he was on the defense. And he was always responding to her comments, which kept him on the defense. All right. Harris endorsed by Taylor Swift. Yeah, we talked about that, and that is a big deal. Taylor Swift is a force of nature. She's a young woman that's incredibly talented, incredibly successful, and has an incredible amount of integrity. She has my full respect. I don't know that I'm her target audience for her music, but as a human being, I fully respect her, and I'm proud of the fact that she stepped up and gave the endorsement. J. Kirk Daring says, how many Trump signs do you see out there west of the lake? Are these guys finally coming around? Yeah, I don't see too many Trump signs anymore. Are they coming around? Here's what I'm going to tell you. The people that support Trump, the base, the fucking idiots, they're never going to change their minds. That's why I try to tell people. We're never going to change some of these people's minds, but we don't have to, because most of these Trump fucks are stupid, but it's only like 25, maybe 30% of the people in this country. That's not enough to win an election. We're not trying to change their minds. We're trying to better educate the more moderate and the more reasonably minded Republicans, because we don't need that many Republicans to move over to the Democratic side to beat this fuck. And people of a reasonable mind or a relatively reasonable mind will see what happened tonight, and then they will understand how bad a choice Donald Trump might be. We already hear about 200 Republican politicians that have signed on with Kamala Harris, Dick Cheney, Liz Cheney. There are Republicans all over the place bailing on Donald Trump. And that's a bad news for Donald Trump because he needs the party to be unified, and it frankly is not. Ticktastic, he doesn't know how to be diplomatic by not walking to shake her hand. Yeah, he looked like a fool there. Uh, he was hit by a pack of ketchup. That's an interesting euphemism. Most stores in Daytona Beach move Trump merchandise to the back of the store. Yeah, I saw a couple places that sell Trump stuff, and they're out of business. Poppy says, I was quite surprised that arch conservatives, big Dick Cheney has endorsed Harris. Well, I mean, let's be honest. Dick Cheney is fucking Satan. He is one of the most despicable human beings to ever hold office in Washington, D.C. But even he could see, I'm a Republican. I'd never vote Democrat, but in this case, um, it's better to vote for a Democrat who has different policies than to destroy the country. He understands what's going on. He's like Joe Biden. He'd been in politics for decades. He was a vice president. You know, excuse me, I'm just getting over a cold, and every so often my mouth or my voice gets dry. But he knows what's at stake. And what's at stake is our very democracy. And if we vote for Donald Trump and he gets into office, that democracy is gone. And then everybody's freedom is gone. So even Dick Cheney realizes that. The GQP shitstorm has begun. Well, it's been going on for a long time, but it hit um, epic proportions now. Where was the mute button they promised? Well, there is a mute button. There was a mute button for most of the debate, but at the discretion of the moderators, they could leave them both open if something happened where they were talking amongst themselves and they thought it would be valuable. And there was a couple times that happened, but for the most part, the mics were muted. Do you think people in the back room having a meltdown, throwing things? Oh, yeah, I'm sure a lot of people are melting down because they saw what happened and they know what this means. Now, Donald Trump's going to be angry about the people who talk shit about him, but Donald Trump may be delusional enough to be convinced that he won tonight. I really believe that. I don't think he's bright enough to or self aware enough to understand. Um, let's see here. Trump is worse than a 3-year-old with ADHD. I'd have to agree. He can't stay on topic no matter what. Harris cleaned Trump's clock all night. He did. Trump said he didn't talk to Vance. What? You know, that's the interesting thing. Have you noticed that? You never see Trump and Vance together, ever. But you see Kamala and Tim Walz together. These two motherfuckers can't even get along. I'm sure Donald Trump is mad at JD Vance because he thinks JD Vance is dragging him down, which I think is kind of funny when you consider the fact that he thinks JD Vance is dragging him down, yet he's the one with 34 felony convictions, being found liable for sexual assault, for stealing classified documents, for inciting a riot, but it's JD Vance who's bringing him down. Sorry, Donald. I think that you're missing what the real problem is here, and that's you. Melly Mel says, what do you think of Liz Cheney? Well, I think Liz Cheney has some integrity, which is rare enough in politics. I appreciate her standing up against Donald Trump and doing the right thing. But let's be honest, that's the very least we could expect out of politicians. Now, as much as she was helpful to the Democrats in the January 6th committee, she is still highly conservative. She is still against abortion. For years, she was against the LGBTQ until her sister came out, and then she changed her mind. I would never, ever vote for Liz Cheney for anything. I appreciate the fact that she stood up and showed some integrity, but that's something I would hope all our politicians would do. So I appreciate what she did, but she did little more than her job if she was to do it properly. Would be helpful for Kamala to do a series of town halls. That way she could flesh out her ideas. That may be what they have to do. But, you have to remember Kamala is going to be doing campaign speeches all over the country, hitting the swing states really hard. Um, she needs to keep the momentum going. She doesn't have to go out and prove herself right now. She's done that with her campaigning, with her fundraising in the debate. She doesn't have to keep proving herself. She just has to keep the ball rolling. True Blue says Cheney has influence. Yeah, he does. And when Donald Trump talks shit about Dick Cheney, I said, well, you want to maybe back that off. That's fucking Satan. He knows a lot of people. He knows where the bodies are buried because he probably put them there. And just don't go hunting with the motherfucker. Yeah, think of how bad you have to be for Cheney to think you're dangerous. My point exactly. That's crazy. She still hasn't done anything in 3.5 years. That's a fact. Okay, I'm blocking that motherfucker right there. That's the one thing that Donald Trump always says. How come Kamala Harris hasn't done anything in 3.5 years? Well, that's ironic. First of all, she's the vice president. She's not the president. She can only do what the president is doing. And let's take a look at the president. Probably the most prolific, most productive president in the history of this country. So your point isn't well taken. It's a stupid fucking comment. Hi, Mike. Gracie, the nomadic woman here in Missouri, will have to keep an eye on my dog. Yes, Gracie, but I heard the good news, Gracie, about Missouri. They were going to have the abortion question on the ballot. Then, of course, all the Republicans try to game the system, try to get it off the ballot because they don't want people to have a right to decide what they want for themselves. They tried real hard, but it came down to the last minute to the Supreme Court in Missouri, and it stays on the ballot. The Republicans lost a motherfucking again. Amazing how many people really don't know the VP has no real power in our system of government. Yeah, they don't really have, they're there as an assistant and a backup to the president. What's more surprising is that a former president, uh, uh, is doesn't know what's going on. Look, we're at 117 right now. We're starting to get the Trumplefucks heating up. I always like to get out of here before that happens. I want to thank you all for taking time to join me on the live. I hope you have a great night. Listen to this on the Rational Boomer podcast. You have a great night. I'll see you tomorrow on TikTok. Oh, sorry about that clearing my throat here, but I got this cold, and when I start talking, it gets worse. My throat gets dry and I want to cough. I'm really actually doing pretty well right now, but we're done with the live. We went an hour and 17 minutes, and we've covered a lot of shit. So I hope that we get to talk about this more tomorrow. It'll be interesting to see about Donald Trump's meltdowns. That's going to be fun. But I want to thank you for taking the time to listen. I hope you have a great day, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.